Here I have a nice thin slab of clay that I threw out. I'm going to use this as and I'm going to drape it into a mold. This is one of the most fun things I've done. I don't know why. I just love throwing these slabs really thin and seeing what you can do with them. And it's interesting how they change shape when you put them into a curved mold. But I want to make sure to get any of these weird lines out. I can use my finger, use a rib. If there's an edge that I don't like, if that's a really hard edge, I want to make sure to smooth that edge with my finger. A hard edge in clay is not the best thing. Glaze tends to repel hard edges, and it tends to want to chip. If I've got something really funky going on, I'm just going to take my pin tool and cut that off and smooth that out. Maybe I'll cut a little more off over here at an angle. Now normally I would just throw this into a drape mold, let it dry, maybe put a foot on it before it's super dry, and glaze it. But I don't have glazes at my disposal, so I'm going to try, and I've never tried this before, but I'm going to try a slip design on both sides of this, and we'll see how that's going to work out. Here I got my slip, and I don't know if you can see that, but it's kind of separated a little bit. I want to just mix that white slip in. It's probably better to use actually another tool to do this other than your brush, but because then you don't get a mess all up your brush. But sometimes a mess is fun. Just mix that up a little bit and give it a nice coat. Making sure to get the edges as well. So I'm just thinking about doing a black and white design of some sort here. And giving it a nice base coat so that it's all fairly uniform. Even brush strokes, light brush strokes. You can leave the brush strokes if you want people to see them, to see the brush effect. You can try and work them out. If you work this too much, it's going to start to peel. So be careful with that. And this is going to be in a mold, so it's not going to show like if I did a really cool scene with horses and cactus and stuff like that. It probably is not going to show up too well because it's going to be draped inside of a mold. So I'm thinking something more geometric or a random patterning, something that's going to lend to the form that this is going to become. I mean, looking at this right now, I'm immediately thinking that this is just a slab. It's just a blank slab. It's going to be flat the whole time. I have to remember, unless I want it to be that, you know, it's actually going to change its shape. That's one of the tricks of working with clay. You have to think a couple steps ahead. So I'm just going to let this dry for a few minutes. because I'm going to add black, and I don't want the black to really mix in. I just want it to be on top of this white. So, see you in a minute. Okay, so now this white slip has kind of dried a little bit, and just for maybe 5 minutes it's been hanging out, and now I've got my black slip, and again this is separated, and this black slip is not going to look extremely black from the get-go. Again, you got to think ahead to the future. When you're working in clay, things change. After a firing process, things darken, things lighten. The clay body will probably lighten up, this particular one, and this black is going to look a little bit on the gray side when I apply it. However, when it's fired, it's going to darken up significantly and actually be black. So see how gray that is? You got to use your third eye to see what is going to happen. Now I could make like a pattern, a grid or whatever. I could just have fun. I really liked that, the brush strokes happening. I might do a little, Jackson Pollocky thing, drippy, 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 using the crazy nature of my wild mind to create something, go off the pattern, go off the palette, go off the canvas. I'm just playing. Now, this might not look any good, but it's just having fun. You never know what's going to happen unless you try it. This might sell at an art fair for about $20. Might sell at a gallery for about $20,000. You never know. Okay, just cleaning off my brush. It's always good to have at your side a bucket of rinse water for your slips. Rinse, 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 rinse. It's good to have 2 of these little yogurt containers handy. One is a primary rinse and one is a secondary rinse. So the primary one you always use first. That one gets the most dirty, and the secondary you'll use to clean your brush more thoroughly, especially if you're going back and forth between black and white. And you can let that sit for a day or so, day or two, and usually it'll settle out, and you can skim off the water from the top, and then you can throw out what's in the bottom. Okay, so now we're going to let this sit, and I'm going to repeat the process on the back side. If I do a really gestural thing and this slip gets thick, I'm going to have to remember that that's going to take a long time to dry if I want to flip this over and do the back side. So keep that in mind. Maybe you want to do that on one side, and that's going to be the second side you do that's going to get draped into the form, because it won't give you as many problems. When I flip this over, that's going to smear, do all kinds of stuff that I may not want, but I should just try it and see what happens, because it might be a really cool effect.